No alarms. No warnings. No heroic speeches echoing across the world. Just silence. At exactly 3:17 Universal Time Coordinated, every satellite orbiting Earth stopped transmitting. For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. Planes continued flying. Cars moved through quiet streets. Late-night workers stared at glowing screens. Somewhere, a child laughed in their sleep. Then the sky changed. At first, people thought it was a glitch, an aurora where it didn't belong. A ripple of pale blue light stretching across the darkness. But the light didn't fade. It spread. Slowly. Deliberately. Like something peeling reality open. And then the stars disappeared. Not dimmed. Not obscured by clouds. Erased. Where thousands of stars had once shimmered, there was now only blackness. Vast, unnatural, and wrong. In New York, a man stepped out of a taxi and looked up, frowning. In Tokyo, a woman paused mid-step on a crowded sidewalk. In the deserts of Africa, an old astronomer dropped his equipment, his hands trembling, because they all saw the same thing. Something was blocking the sky. Within seconds, the world's emergency systems lit up. Governments scrambled. Military channels flooded with confused voices. Unknown objects entering orbit. They're everywhere. This isn't debris. Size estimates, impossible. Then the transmissions cut. Every single one. Across the globe, screens went black. Radios hissed into static. Phones lost signal. Earth had just gone dark. The first ships descended over the Atlantic. They didn't roar or burn like human spacecraft. They didn't pierce the atmosphere with fire. They simply appeared. Massive structures, sleek, angular, and impossibly large, slid through the sky like shadows breaking free from the void above. Each one stretched miles across, blotting out what little starlight remained. No sound, no heat, just presence. And then, without warning, the oceans began to boil. Not from explosions, not from weapons anyone could see, but from something else. A low-frequency hum vibrated through the air, too deep to hear, but strong enough to be felt. It rattled bones, shook buildings, sent waves crashing violently against coastlines. On every continent, people dropped to their knees, clutching their heads as pressure built behind their eyes. And then came the first strike. A single beam of white light lanced down from one of the ships. It didn't explode. It didn't scatter. It erased. A section of the Atlantic Ocean, miles wide, simply vanished in an instant, leaving behind a hollow crater in the water before it rushed back in with catastrophic force. Tsunamis followed. Cities along the coasts had minutes. Most didn't even get that. Military retaliation came fast, and failed faster. Missiles launched from submarines, streaking upward in coordinated volleys. Fighter jets scrambled, breaking the sound barrier as they raced toward the descending giants. None of it mattered. Before a single missile could make contact, invisible barriers flickered around the alien ships, brief flashes of distorted space. Every projectile disintegrated. Jets lost control mid-air, spiraling helplessly as their systems shut down. On command screens, officers watched their entire defense network collapse in less than 60 seconds. "This isn't a war," one general whispered, his voice hollow. "It's an extinction." Then the message came. It didn't arrive through satellites. It didn't transmit through any known frequency. It simply appeared. Every screen that still functioned flickered to life at the same moment. Phones, billboards, laptops, even dead monitors sparked with sudden energy. A symbol filled the displays. Sharp, geometric, shifting in ways the human mind struggled to process. And then it translated itself. World designation, EITH. Status, unclaimed. Resource acquisition commencing. There was no emotion in the words. No anger. No hatred. Just cold, absolute certainty. To them, Earth wasn't a planet filled with life. It was an object. A resource. Something to be harvested. Panic spread faster than any virus. People ran. Prayed. Hid. Fought. Some stood frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. Entire cities lost power. Governments vanished into bunkers. The internet, once humanity's greatest connection, became a graveyard of half-sent messages and unanswered cries for help. And above it all, the ships continued to descend. Unstoppable. Unchallenged. Unopposed. But something else was happening. Something the invaders didn't notice. Not yet. Deep beneath the Himalayas, ancient stone trembled. In the Mariana Trench, where light had never touched, the ocean floor cracked open with a sound older than time itself. Under the Sahara Desert, something massive shifted beneath layers of sand that had not moved in millennia. Across the world, in places long forgotten, sealed, or dismissed as myth, the earth began to move. Seismographs spiked wildly, recording tremors that didn't match any known pattern. These weren't earthquakes. They were pulses. Rhythmic, deliberate, alive. In a hidden cavern beneath a mountain no map recorded, a pair of eyes opened. They burned with a faint, golden glow, ancient, patient, and now aware. Dust fell from the cavern ceiling as something immense inhaled for the first time in centuries. A low rumble followed, not from shifting stone, not from collapsing earth, but from something far more dangerous. A growl. Back on the surface, humanity was losing. Fast. The alien ships began deploying smaller crafts, sleek, blade-like vessels that cut through the air without resistance. They spread across continents, targeting infrastructure with surgical precision. Power grids vanished. Military bases were razed. Resistance, wherever it formed, was crushed instantly. To the invaders, this was routine. Another world, another conquest, another forgotten species. But far below their feet, the planet they believed to be unclaimed was waking up, and it was not empty. It had never been empty. As another beam of white light descended toward a burning city, the ground beneath it suddenly cracked. Not from the strike, from below. A deep, thunderous sound erupted as the earth split open, sending debris and fire into the sky. For a brief moment, even the alien ships hesitated, because from that darkness, something moved. Something massive, something ancient, and for the first time since their arrival, the invaders were no longer alone. The crack in the earth did not stop growing. It spread. What began as a single rupture beneath a ruined city became a chain reaction, lines of destruction racing through streets, across hills, under rivers, as if the planet itself was splitting along veins that had always been there, waiting. Survivors ran, stumbling over broken ground, their ears ringing from the constant thunder beneath their feet. Some fell to their knees, convinced this was the end, not just from the invaders above, but from the world itself collapsing. But this wasn't collapse. This was emergence. In the skies, the alien fleet adjusted. They had seen planetary instability before. Core reactions, crust failures, natural disasters triggered by orbital interference. This should have been no different. And yet, it was. Their senses were no longer reading random seismic activity. They were detecting patterns. Organized, rhythmic, intentional, as if something beneath the surface wasn't breaking apart, but waking up. Another fissure tore open, this time deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. For a brief moment, the water stilled. Then it began to spin. A massive whirlpool formed in seconds, pulling entire sections of the ocean downward into darkness. Waves rose like walls, crashing into one another as the sea itself seemed to fight against an unseen force dragging it apart. Then the abyss exhaled. A burst of superheated steam exploded upward, followed by something far more terrifying. A shape. Long. Colossal. Moving. On a nearby alien reconnaissance vessel, systems flashed warnings. Pressure spikes. Extreme. Thermal output. Rising beyond measurable limits. Life form classification. Undefined anomaly. The craft deployed countermeasures immediately, energy barriers, scanning pulses, targeting grids. It was prepared for anything. Also it believed. The ocean erupted. A massive form surged upward, displacing millions of tons of water in a single motion. Waves turned into towering walls as the creature broke through the surface, its body coiling through the storm it created. Scales shimmered beneath layers of steam, dark blue, almost black, lined with veins of glowing heat. Its eyes opened. Brilliant. Ancient. Furious. Another dragon. Unlike the first, this one did not hesitate. The moment it breached the surface, it struck. Its body moved with terrifying speed for something so enormous, coiling around the alien craft before it could retreat. The ship's defenses activated instantly, fields of distortion and energy flaring to life. For half a second, they held. Then they shattered. The dragon tightened its grip. Metal screamed. The craft bent, twisted, then collapsed inward as if crushed by invisible hands. A flash of light followed as its core detonated, sending fragments raining into the churning sea below. The dragon released what remained, letting it sink. Then it lifted its head and roared. The sound traveled across the ocean, through the air, into the very bones of the planet. And something answered. Back on land, the first dragon had reached the sky. Alien ships repositioned, firing coordinated volleys of energy designed to intercept its ascent. Beams cut through clouds, converging on its path with precision that had destroyed entire civilizations before. The dragon did not slow. It twisted mid-air, wings folding slightly as it angled its body between the strikes. Some beams grazed its scales, erupting into bursts of light and heat, but they did not pierce. They could not. With a powerful beat of its wings, it surged higher, closing the distance. Inside one of the larger alien vessels, command systems recalculated in real time. Threat level, escalating. Engagement protocol, maximum force authorized. Weapon arrays shifted, drawing energy from deeper reserves. The ship itself began to hum, space around it warping as something far more destructive prepared to fire. The dragon saw it, and it reacted. Its chest began to glow, faint at first, then brighter, heat building rapidly as the air around it distorted. This was not instinct. This was deliberate, focused, aimed. The alien weapon fired first. A concentrated beam, far larger and more intense than anything used so far, launched forward, designed not to erase, but to annihilate at a molecular level. It struck the dragon head-on. Light consumed everything. For a moment, the battlefield vanished in the glare. Then, through the fading brilliance, something moved. A silhouette. Still there. Still advancing. The dragon burst through the beam. Its scales glowed, cracks of molten light running between them, but its body remained intact, unbroken, unstoppable. And now, close enough, it opened its jaws and released everything it had built. Fire. Not the kind humanity knew. Not chemical. Not simple combustion. This was something older. Something deeper. A torrent of blazing energy erupted from the dragon's mouth. Not just burning, but consuming. It tore through the vacuum, twisting like a living force as it slammed into the alien vessel. The ship's shields flared, strained, failed. The fire engulfed it completely. For a brief moment, the massive craft held its shape, systems desperately trying to compensate, to survive. Then it came apart. Not in an explosion, but in pieces. Molten fragments drifted apart, glowing as they cooled. The once invincible structure reduced to drifting wreckage. Silence followed. Deep, heavy, unthinkable. Across the fleet, something changed. For the first time in countless conquests, they were not in control. And across ice, more eyes opened. Beneath mountains, under ice, within caverns untouched by time, shapes stayed. Massive, ancient, endless. Humanity watched from below, terrified, awed, and completely unprepared for the truth unfolding before them. The invaders had come believing Earth was just another world, just another resource, just another easy victory. They were wrong, because Earth did not belong to them. It never had. And now, its true guardians had awakened. The sky was no longer the sky. It had become a battlefield. Burning fragments of alien ships drifted through the upper atmosphere, glowing like falling stars as they tore across the heavens. Trails of fire cut through the clouds, marking the first real losses the invaders had suffered since arriving. Below, humanity watched. Some from shattered cities, some from bunkers buried deep underground, some from open fields where there was nowhere left to run. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens were losing. High above Earth, the fleet shifted formation. What had once been a slow, methodical descent now became something far more aggressive. Ships spread outward, forming a massive lattice across orbit. Their movements sharp, precise, coordinated with a level of intelligence that had crushed entire galaxies. They were adapting, learning, correcting their mistake. The first dragon cut through the clouds like a living comet. Its wings burned faintly at the edges, heat trailing behind it as it circled back toward the fleet. Below, distant fires reflected across its scales, giving it the appearance of something forged in war itself. It was not alone anymore. From the oceans, another rose. From the mountains, a third. From the deep deserts, a fourth tore its way free from beneath endless sand, shaking entire regions as it climbed into the open air. Different shapes, different sizes, but all the same in one way. Ancient, powerful, awake. The alien fleet responded without hesitation. Hundreds of smaller crafts launched at once, swarming upward in coordinated attack patterns. Their movements were flawless, perfect angles, perfect timing, perfect execution. This was how they had always won. Overwhelm, adapt, erase. The dragons met them head-on. The first collision was chaos. Alien fighters darted around the largest dragon, firing rapid bursts of concentrated energy. The beams struck its wings, its neck, its chest, explosions of light flashing across its body. For a moment, it looked like the barrage might work. Then the dragon turned. Fast. Far too fast for something its size. Its jaws snapped shut around one of the craft's mid-flight, crushing it instantly before it could even attempt to escape. It didn't slow, didn't pause. As it twisted through the swarm, its tail whipping outward. 3 more ships shattered in a single strike. Another dragon dove from above, folding its wings as it plummeted like a missile into a cluster of alien fighters. The impact alone destroyed several, but it didn't stop there. It moved within them. Claws slicing, wings smashing, fire erupting in controlled bursts that turned the sky into a storm of destruction. But the aliens adapted. They always did. Within seconds, the swarm reorganized. Distance increased. Attack angle shifted. Instead of rushing the dragons, they spread out, forming a wide perimeter as heavier ships moved into position behind them. Then the real assault began. Beams. Hundreds of them. Not scattered. Focused. Coordinated. They struck at once, targeting the same points, the same sections of scale, the same joints in wings and limbs. Precision. Relentless precision. One of the smaller dragons took the brunt of it. Its roar echoed across the sky as multiple beams slammed into its side, forcing it downward. Its wings faltered, struggling to maintain lift as more strikes followed, each one landing exactly where the last had weakened its defenses. For the first time, a dragon was being pushed back. Below, humans watched in horror. The creatures that had seemed unstoppable just moments ago were now under pressure, forced into defense by a force that refused to break. "This isn't over," someone whispered. "They're figuring them out." High above, the first dragon saw it too. Saw the pattern. Saw the shift. These weren't mindless invaders. They were hunters. And they were learning fast. The dragon roared again. But this time, it wasn't just sound. It was a signal. Across the battlefield, the other dragons reacted instantly. Their movements changed. No longer fighting alone. Now, they fought together. One broke away from its attackers, drawing a cluster of alien ships after it as it climbed higher into the atmosphere. Another followed beneath, staying low, weaving through the swarm. The third circled wide, disappearing briefly into the clouds. To human eyes, it looked chaotic, uncoordinated, desperate. It wasn't. The trap closed in seconds. The first dragon suddenly dropped, not falling, diving, straight back toward the pursuing ships. At the same moment, the second surged upward. The two crossed paths in a blur of motion, forcing the alien crafts into a tight, confined space between them. Then the third dragon struck. It burst from the clouds at full speed, jaws already glowing, and released a massive wave of fire directly into the trap formation. There was nowhere to go. No space to evade. The fire consumed everything. Dozens of alien ships vanished in an instant. For a brief moment, the sky cleared. Not completely, but enough to see what was happening. The dragons weren't just powerful. They were intelligent, strategic, coordinated, and the aliens realized it too. Across the fleet, a new directive spread instantly. Engagement protocols updated. Threat classification revised again. Primary resistance identified. Non-primitive intelligence confirmed. Full extermination authorized. The war escalated. The largest ships began to move. Not hovering anymore. Advancing. Their massive structures shifted through orbit, weapons charging at levels far beyond anything used before. Energy gathered along their surfaces, bending light, distorting space itself. This was no longer a harvest. This was war. Below, the dragons felt it. Every instinct sharpened. Every sense focused. The real enemy had finally stepped forward. The first dragon hovered in the burning sky, its wings beating slowly as it stared up at the approaching giants. For a brief moment, everything seemed to pause. The fire, the the world itself holding its breath. Then, from deep within its chest, the glow returned, brighter than before, hotter, deadlier, and across the sky, the other dragons did the same. Fire met steel. Ancient power met impossible technology. And between them, the fate of Earth hung in the balance. The sky burned, not with scattered fire, not with falling debris, but with war. Massive alien warships descended from orbit, their colossal forms blotting out entire sections of the horizon. They no longer hovered at a distance, observing, calculating. Now they advanced. Slow, unstoppable. Each one carried enough power to erase continents. And now, they aimed that power at a single enemy. The dragons. High above the clouds, the first dragon held its position. Its wings stretched wide, cutting through smoke and fire as it faced the approaching giants. Around it, the others spread out across the sky, forming a loose but deliberate formation. They were no longer reacting. They were preparing. Below, humanity watched the heavens transform into something out of myth. A war no one had imagined. A war no one could stop. From shattered cities and hidden shelters, people stared upward as the clouds themselves seemed to glow, lit by energy building to catastrophic levels. Some prayed. Some wept. Some simply watched in silence. Because deep down, they knew this battle would decide everything. The alien fleet fired first. A barrage unlike anything before. Not scattered beams. Not surgical strikes. This was annihilation. Columns of blinding white energy tore downward, massive enough to swallow entire mountain ranges. They cut through the atmosphere with a scream that shook the planet, converging on the dragons in a coordinated strike meant to end the fight instantly. For a moment, the sky vanished in light. Then it shattered. The first dragon surged forward, cutting through the storm of energy as if it refused to acknowledge it. Beams struck its scales, erupting in explosions that rippled across its body. But still it pushed on. Closer. Faster. Unstoppable. Another dragon took a different path. It climbed. Higher and higher, wings beating against thinning air as it rose above the main battlefield. The alien ships tracked it instantly, redirecting fire to intercept. But that was the point. The moment their focus shifted, the trap began. From below, two dragons accelerated upward at full force, their bodies cutting through the chaos like living weapons. They moved in perfect synchronization, angling toward the same target, a massive warship at the center of the formation. The ship's defenses activated immediately. Layers of shimmering energy wrapped around it, bending incoming attacks, distorting space itself. It had never failed. Not once. The dragons didn't slow. The first slammed into the barrier head-on. The impact sent shockwaves across the sky, visible even from the ground as the air itself rippled outward. For a moment, it seemed like the barrier held. Then cracks of light spread across its surface. At the same instant, the second dragon struck from below. The combined force was too much. The barrier collapsed. And that's when the third dragon descended. From above, it came like a falling star. Wings folded, body streamlined, fire already building in its throat. The alien warship tried to recover, tried to reposition, tried to fire. It was too late. The dragon hit. Its jaws opened at the last possible moment, releasing a concentrated torrent of blazing energy directly into the ship's exposed core. For a split second, everything went silent. Then, the warship came apart. Not in a clean explosion, but in a violent, uncontrolled collapse. Energy surged through its structure, tearing it from within as massive sections broke away, igniting as they fell. The sky filled with burning fragments, each one large enough to level cities as they descended. Below, shockwaves rolled across the planet. Windows shattered. Buildings trembled. The atmosphere itself seemed to roar. And still, the battle continued. The alien fleet did not retreat. It adapted. New formations emerged instantly, ships spreading out to avoid concentrated attacks. Smaller crafts moved in tighter patterns, targeting individual dragons with relentless precision. This time, they aimed for weak points. Eyes, joints, wing membranes. One dragon faltered. A barrage of focused beams tore into its wing, ripping through the thinner membrane and sending it spiraling downward. Its roar echoed across the sky as it struggled to regain control, flames trailing behind it as it fell. From the ground, humans watched in horror. "It's going down," someone whispered. But it didn't hit. Before it could crash, another dragon surged beneath it, catching its falling body mid-air, lifting it back into the fight with a powerful beat of its wings. For a brief moment, the two moved together, not as beasts, but as allies. The message was clear. They would not let each other fall. Above them, the largest alien vessel began to move. It dwarfed everything else. A fortress among warships. Its surface was covered in shifting structures, weapons forming and reforming as energy built at its core. This was not just another ship. This was command. As it advanced, the entire battlefield seemed to change. Energy surged. Space warped. Even the dragon slowed slightly, reacting to the overwhelming presence. Then the weapon fired. A beam unlike anything before erupted from the vessel's core. It wasn't just light. It was destruction given form. The beam tore through the sky, cutting a path of pure annihilation as it surged toward the dragons. The air screamed. Clouds vanished. Even the smallest ships pulled back to avoid its path. There was no dodging it, no outrunning it. The first dragon turned to face it. For a single moment, it hovered there, wings spread wide, fire building deep within its chest as the beam closed in. Below, humanity held its breath. Above, the fleet watched. Then the dragon roared, and met the beam head-on. Fire collided with annihilation. The impact shook the world. A massive explosion of energy erupted where the two forces met, sending shockwaves across the atmosphere. Light consumed everything, turning the sky into a blinding storm of power. For several seconds, no one could see anything. Then, slowly, the light began to fade, and through it, a shape remained. The dragon still stood, wings torn, scales cracked and glowing, but alive, still fighting. And behind it, the other dragons rose again. The war was far from over, but one truth was now undeniable. The invaders had not come to an empty world. They had come to a world that could fight back, and it would not surrender. The sky was breaking. Fragments of alien warships burned as they fell, tearing through the atmosphere like dying stars. The oceans churned, they trembled, and the air itself carried the echo of a battle that had never been meant for human eyes. And yet, humanity was still here, watching, waiting, surviving. High above, the alien command vessel remained, scarred but intact. Its vast structure loomed over the battlefield, dwarfing even the largest dragons. Around it, the remnants of its fleet struggled to maintain formation, their once perfect coordination now fractured under relentless resistance. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they had met something they could not easily erase. Inside the command vessel, calculations ran without pause. Data streams collided. Predictions failed. Outcomes shifted. The conclusion was unavoidable. This world was not what it seemed. Across every system, a new directive spread. Reassess target. Origin status, unknown. Resistance level, extreme. Below, the dragons regrouped. They no longer attacked blindly. They circled, watched, waited, like ancient predators deciding the exact moment to strike. The first dragon hovered at the center of them all. Its wings beat slowly, despite the damage it had taken. Cracks of molten light still glowed across its scales, and each breath it took carried heat strong enough to distort the air around it. Its gaze remained fixed on the command vessel, unblinking, unafraid. And then, something changed. From deep beneath the earth, a new pulse spread outward, stronger than before, older, heavier. Across the planet, every dragon felt it. Their movements stilled. Their eyes shifted, not toward the sky, but toward the ground. Human instruments detected it too. A seismic wave unlike anything recorded. Not violent, not destructive, but deliberate. In bunkers, in ruins, in the last functioning command centers of humanity, scientists stared at their readings in stunned silence. What is that? No one had an answer. Then the ground itself responded. Across continents, ancient places began to awaken. Mountains long thought dormant cracked open, revealing vast hollow chambers beneath. Oceans receded from hidden trenches, exposing structures that no human civilization had ever built. In the deepest deserts, beneath endless layers of sand, shapes began to rise, too massive to comprehend, too precise to be natural. The truth was surfacing. High above, the alien command vessel registered the change instantly. New structures detected, energy signatures rising, planetary classification shifting. For the first time, Uncertainty entered their calculations. Then they made a decision. The command vessel began to charge its core again. But this time, not for a single strike. For something final. Energy gathered at a scale far beyond anything used before. Space around the vessel warped violently, light bending inward as if reality itself was being pulled toward a single point. This was not a weapon of conquest. This was a weapon of erasure. Below, the dragons reacted. Every instinct screamed the same truth. If that weapon fired, everything would end. The first dragon roared. Not in anger, not in defiance, but as a call. Across the world, the others answered. They rose as one. From mountains, oceans, deserts, and hidden depths, every awakened dragon surged into the sky, their wings cutting through smoke and storm as they converged on a single point. The command vessel. Humanity watched as the impossible unfolded. Dozens of dragons, then hundreds, each one different, each one ancient beyond comprehension. This was not a species. This was an army, and they had been here all along, guarding, waiting, watching. The command vessel fired. A beam of pure annihilation erupted from its core, whiter than cities, brighter than the sun, tearing through the sky with unstoppable force. It was aimed at the planet itself, at everything. The dragons did not scatter. They did not flee. They charged. The first dragon led the way, surging directly into the path of the beam. Fire erupted from its jaws, colliding with the incoming destruction in a violent explosion of energy. Behind it, the others followed, each one adding its own power, its own fire, its own fury. Flame met annihilation. The sky ceased to exist. From the ground, it looked like the sun had descended, an overwhelming sphere of light consuming everything above. Shockwaves tore across the planet, flattening what remained of already ruined cities. Oceans surged. Mountains trembled. Humanity could do nothing but endure. And then, slowly, the light began to shift. Not expanding, not consuming, but pushing back. The combined force of the dragons held, then surged, then advanced. The beam faltered. Inside the command vessel, systems collapsed under the strain. Energy output exceeded limits. Structural integrity failing. Outcome unrecoverable. For the first time in their history, they were losing. The beam shattered. Dragonfire surged forward, slamming into the command vessel with unstoppable force. Its shields flickered, failed, and vanished as the ancient flames consumed its structure. The massive ship began to break apart, sections collapsing inward as its core destabilized. And then, it was gone. The explosion lit the sky for thousands of miles. A silent, final burst. The end of an empire that had never known defeat. Silence followed. No more ships. No more beams. No more invaders. Only drifting wreckage. And dragons. Slowly, the surviving dragons descended. Not as conquerors. Not as rulers. But as guardians returning to their place. The first dragon landed among the ruins of a broken city. Humans watched from a distance, afraid, uncertain, unable to understand what came next. The dragon lowered its head, its glowing eyes fixed on them. Not with hunger, not with anger, but with something far older. Recognition. As if it had seen them before. As if it had always known they would be here. Then, for the first time, it spoke. Not in words, but in something deeper. A presence. A thought that echoed through every human mind. You were never alone. The dragons turned away. One by one, they rose back into the skies, disappearing into clouds, mountains, oceans, and hidden places once more. Not gone. Just watching. Earth grew quiet again. But everything had changed. Because now humanity knew the truth. They were not the first rulers of this world. They were not the strongest. But they were not unprotected. And somewhere, deep beneath the surface, ancient eyes remained open, waiting,